Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Badgers Heavy Hitters. My last meeting interview was a little awkward. I dealt with a young kid who his family had committed, somebody in his family had committed suicide. Uh, you see all these young kids. I mean, Jo here is, you're pretty young regardless. I mean, I know how old you are. You're still pups, you know what I mean? And it's a shame that you guys have already been introduced to the penal system, but so many of you guys are anxious to get there. You know, it's just something that goes on in the United States. How old were you when you actually went to prison? Well, let's start
The
off with
very first time I went to actual adult prison, I was a little bit older. I was 20, let's see, 25. The first time I went to adult prison. I'd been in and out of county jail, and I grew up kind of in the juvenile system back home in Kansas. But I didn't touch a mainline big yard until I was 25 years old.
Did you go out with Dorothy back in Kansas?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We
So
had some good times, me and Dorothy back in the day.
she used to spread her heels and say, "There's no place like home. There's no place like home."
Absolutely. Yes.
So, well, I mean, you're as pink as they come, bro. You know what I mean? You're just like me. You're a little straight white boy, you know.
Yeah.
But you ran with what I believe to be known as a black gang. I mean, you run with gangster disciples, correct?
Yes. I've been a gangster disciple since I was 14 years old, and that started back home in Kansas. In the juvenile system, it's predominantly blacks and Mexicans. Um, and the guy that I was first introduced to at the age of like 7 years old inside of the juvenile shelter was black, and he later became, my brother, my best friend. His family took me in, and he was a gangster disciple. And so, growing up with him and all of his homeboys, which later became my homeboys as well, I was just, that's what I became a part of, and that's what I thought to be normal.
No, and I completely understand that. So, like, when I get my clown on, just please know I completely understand that how people grow up plays a big part in, what they do. I'll give you this: you're not sitting there trying to act like something you're not. You're not trying to act black, and I
Right.
respect that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
when people are down, they are what they are. That's fine. You know what I mean? Like, I don't trip.
Exactly.
I mean, out here in California, you would have a miserable time, bro. I'm gonna just be right up
I
front.
already know. Yes. I
You and I
I
had
but
talked
I
on the phone, and you had also stated that you didn't have such a glorious time back there as well.
No, yeah, I actually in Washington State, I moved up here when I was 18 years old from Kansas to get away from that lifestyle, to change my life. And lo and behold, what did I find? I did good. I made it about 5 years um, without getting into any kind of trouble. And then when I did, it just kind of snowballed. But when I hit the main line um, in Shelton, which is the receiving units here in Washington,
Well, let's
when
not
I hit the
let's
R
not jump.
units,
I don't mean to interrupt you, but let's not jump straight to prison. You know what I mean? Like, I'd like to get a little background on you, because what you're doing today is you're not with that life anymore. You know what I mean? Which is a plus. That's why
not
I'm
at all,
bringing you on the channel.
not at all.
Um, and so how did you grow up? I mean, like, give me a little quick rundown, not as long as version, just give me a quick little rundown. You know what I mean?
Okay, first of all, I started. I grew up with a mom who wasn't ready to be a mom yet. She was a kid. She was 16 when she had me. So I grew up in the midst of her addiction as well. I was in the way, so to speak. So I went to mental hospitals at the age of 5. I was in foster home care, bounced around juvenile shelters, detention centers, and you know, I had a rough. No rougher than the next man. We all, anybody, or I shouldn't say anybody, but most anybody that's ever done time in the penitentiary has had some type of rough upbringing. So it was no harder than anybody else's. But I I bounced around from juvenile shelters and detention centers and foster homes, and like I said, even mental health institutions, that was solely based on me being in the way of my mom and what she was doing.
So basically, by the time you get to the penal system, like you said, the black guy that you met or whatever, who was a gangster disciple, it sounds to me like you were searching to belong somewhere,
Yeah,
anywhere at the
yeah,
time. Like you just wanted to be approved of or accepted
yeah.
or feel a sense of, you know, wantedness, being wanted or whatever. Sounds like.
That's exactly what it was, and you know, a big shout out to my brother, man, because even though it was led in a wrong direction, it was real genuine love and acceptance. You know what I mean? His own blood family took me in and treated me as their own. So, and that's exactly what it was me looking to belong and feel like I was wanted, and that was the motivating factor in joining an organization to begin with.
You probably weren't even aware of the fact that you just wanted to belong somewhere. You know what I mean? Like
No,
you,
not at that age.
you just
No.
wanted acceptance from somebody, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And let me ask you this: did you feel that acceptance with them? I mean, did they ever treat you like you were that white guy? Let's send him on the mission. Let's see what the cracker could prove. Or did any of that ever come about?
Well, it did. In the beginning, it did, but it wasn't. At the time, I didn't feel that. I just felt like I was different, but I was accepted by these people. But I had to show my worth, kind of deal. And even at a young age, I comprehended that, in a sense of they want to know that I'm down with these guys. So
Sure.
I just, that's what I did. And it was never it was never I never felt any type of uh I felt more uncomfortable with my own blood than I did with my brother and his family. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
I got you.
that was a very interesting situation in its own. But when I got up to Washington, that they, there was a lot of, oh, we don't know you, let's see what you're about type of stuff. And so I did experience those feelings later on in life, but not so much as a juvenile, not so much as a kid. And
But once you
it
got
may
to
have been
the
that I
state,
just didn't recognize them either.
right, right. So, I mean, how do I say this? Because I don't want you to feel disrespected by anything I say, because I promise you I'm not going to say anything to try and disrespect you. But you had to have felt some sense of awkwardness, or they had to have felt some sense of awkwardness. You guys are kicking it on the block on the corner, let's say, you're drinking, and here comes little Chrissy Sue or whatever, Louisa, Coisha, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. So,
Yeah.
and then they're like, well, what's this cracker, getting up on our women for? I mean, I'm sure you had to have experienced some of that.
Oh, well, yeah, I did experience, as far as with the women go, I did. They get me a hard time about it all the time. But let me explain this too. I had a major identity crisis when I was a child. Believe it or not, you couldn't tell me that I wasn't black for the longest time as a child. I really was lost in my head about this. And so I never took offense to any words associated with, you know, a white man, cracker, honky. I never took any offense to any of that because in my head,
It didn't
you
register.
it didn't register, and I was just I was so caught up and confused and had a major identity crisis. And so that never bothered me. I never we used to laugh and joke about it all the time. And it the one thing that I did learn is you know, I have some very thick skin, so don't worry about
Nice.
offending or disrespect. I don't I I have thick skin, brother, so
Gotcha.
yeah, that's not an issue. But there were instances of, you know, uh, why you messing with our women, and this. My very first girlfriend was a girl named Tangeline, and she was Tangerine, and she was 6 foot and 250 pounds, bigger than I was, and they used to tell her all the time, "What you doing messing with that honky? What you doing messing with that white boy?" And I would laugh and shoot shots back. That was my defense mechanism, was to just shoot back. So
I got you.
yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway, you said you were going through the juvenile system as well. So, I mean, what were you doing? Petty shit? Were you doing stealing candy bars, stealing food to get by, stealing car breaking and entries? Were you
Yeah.
doing this just to prove to them that you're a fool, or were you doing
Well,
this to survive?
a lot of my juvenile stuff was, in the beginning, was based around running away from home, and getting into it with my mom's husband at the time, and it was all anger control issues. Me and her husband got into multiple fights, even as a young child. And then when I got involved in the system, it was stealing cars. Um, I don't know how many, not to boast or brag about any of it, but multiple assault and batteries. Um, I was a felon at the age of 12, with a felony assault, and then later turned into criminal threat. I threatened the judge and her whole family and dog and all kinds of shit. But
That worked out
it
for
just
you.
gradually progressed to, and then it got to, when I got to 15, 16, then I was selling dope, and it became about money and things like that. So
For sure.
that was it was kind of like a gradual increase in crime, so
Right,
to
right.
speak.
So you get busted. Now you're out of the juvenile system. I'm sure that you had to have gotten a little roughness. Probably not, because you said it was a majority black inside and Mexican inside, and there'd be like
Yeah.
five white boys to a block or something.
Yeah, there in the juvenile system back home. When I went to juvenile, they call it YCAT. It's in Topeka, Kansas. It's a juvenile correctional facility. In 1999, when I was there was no white boy clique.
Basically, you weren't getting harassed by the whites in the juvenile system because there wasn't enough of them to come harass you.
Yeah, there was.
So by the time you graduated, to Penn State, State Penn, that's a little different story. It has to be in every state. There's quite a few whites. Once you get to the state, there's always more whites.